It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Happy Feedback Friday. And I think I finally found a sweater I'm gonna get rid of. This seems kind of ridiculous. It's like black spider webs with like, I don't know, what is this? Fairy poo or something like that? I don't know. I bought this in my I'm gonna try to buy grown-up clothes phase. And I won't say what it makes me feel like on camera because some people get offended, but maybe some people got offended by fairy poo. I don't know. But yeah, I think I'm going to ditch this one because I have too many sweaters and I do not like it. Before I start rambling, I'm going to do the shilling. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK or PayPal. Email address you can use for PayPal is in the description box below. You'll notice that pink car thing behind me, that came out of this week's unboxing video. Patreons are getting, there were bins of collectible toys that were in my house, my old house from the last time my husband and I moved. So a lot of these toys are from around circa 1997, 1998. And that little car dude came out of one of those boxes. It's an IKEA toy that I thought looked like a Cuphead boss. So I kept it. I don't know why he's a dude, even though he's pink. He just looks like a dude to me. Makes no sense. Doesn't need to. But yeah, if you want to see silly stuff like that, become a patron. I enjoy doing those videos. The Patreons seem to like them. I have also figured out what my next series of Twitch streams is gonna be, and this was badly needed because I was trying to figure out Twitch. And one thing, because I'm so introverted, no, really very introverted, I don't do well with self-promotion. I don't, it's a problem on YouTube, but I'm really good at advocating for other things I believe in. And I found out from my buddy Mouse Mary Jest. Mary told me that he's really involved in the Hero U community, the Laurie and Corey Cole independent game that's based on the lore connected to the Quest for Glory series. You don't need to know this. Or maybe you do. Maybe there's like some longtime Quest for Glory fans out there like me. But apparently, Hero U got hit by a really nasty Steam bug that listed, we're still gathering information on this game for a solid 6 months, so people couldn't like upvote the game. They couldn't recommend the game through Steam's algorithm, and it cost them some pretty serious sales. So I'm going to be Twitch streaming some Hero U gameplay. I'm going to go through the whole character creation process and everything like that myself, get familiar with the game, show you guys some like early to mid gameplay, maybe some advanced gameplay. I don't know. I personally don't like watching people. I shouldn't say that. I'm a very slow ass character creator. I like to fart around a lot. And I personally find that boring to watch. So I'm going to get all that done, get decent, if not good at the game, and then stream. But I'm going to try to do that Monday, Tuesday, early evening, which I know is not great for people in Australia. Apparently people on one coast, that's like, you know, if I do it like 6, that's like 7 a.m. But for another coast, it's for the other coast, that's like 10 a.m. and they're already at work. But I mean, there are restreams, but I want to try to allow people to watch it live. So maybe I'll do one at like, I don't know. It's got to be at least 6 so people here are home from work. And the problem is, you know, you get into 9 o'clock, so West Coasties can see it live. Then, like, all of a sudden, it's too late for some people on the East Coast. So there's really no winning with Twitch, which has been one of the challenges I've had. So, but I'm just gonna do it because if you're interested in it, you can watch the restream, but I do want to have some interactivity for people who, through no fault of their own, can't be there live. So do you guys have any questions about the game you want to ask now? That's the feedback part of this video this week. What do you want to know about Hero U? Because I admit, I'm really invested in selling a few copies of this game. One, because I think it's crappy that Steam screwed over indie developers for 6 months, especially people with the historical track record of the Coles. I mean, my God, if you were a gamer in the 80s and 90s, Quest for Glory was a pretty big deal. It laid a lot of foundations for adventure and RPG gameplay that continue to this day, including not just, narrative choice, but different ways to solve a puzzle in games, but also different ways to approach combat in games. The whole class system that we really take for granted. Quest for Glory was a really early forerunner of those games, and we need to support these people that have stuck it out and not left the business for an easier line of work. So that'll be Monday, Tuesday of next week. Monday, I'm also going to be reviewing The Punisher Season 2, because people thought that was a good idea. Let's get to the feedback this week. Oh, one more question I wanted to ask you guys, and I'm loading the questions on the front, because if people don't watch the whole video, I want them to still be able to answer these questions. I am really torn about Metro Exodus because of the stuff they pulled, pulling it off Steam for anybody but pre-orders and making you do the Epic Games Store. Now, I wasn't going to play that game on PC anyway because my CPU on my computer is getting a bit old. It's fine for video editing, but for gaming, those graphics-heavy games like Metro, I'm concerned about it, and I hate troubleshooting. I just have no patience. I don't have enough time to game anymore to spend hours troubleshooting a game before I get to play it. But I still think this is kind of crappy. I'm torn though, because this is sort of industry standard crappy now. I stopped playing Ubisoft games on PC because I like the incentives of Uplay, but my Uplay? Uplay. I like the incentives, like the in-game little cosmetic things you can get with Uplay points, but my computer hated Uplay. I don't like to have a ton of, in order to PC game now, you need Steam. You, I guess, don't need GOG, but I like GOG. I played The Witcher through GOG. I have a bunch of my old classic games, which is what GOG, Good Old Games, stands for. Then you need Origins and Uplay, and I had Beamdog's client on my PC for a while, and the Battle.net, and God, I know I'm even forgetting some. Like, every publisher now has their own freaking store, at least the majors do. I don't know about Activision. Maybe, well, does Activision even do stuff on PC? I don't know. But there were so many friggin' clients, popping up when you start, or you have to turn them off, or slowing your computer to a crawl because you forgot they were running in the background. I'm just like, no, get off all this shit off my PC. I am installing Steam. I am installing GOG. Those are the two for PC. Anything else I buy on PS4, because then I can get my little cool, Uplay Rabid incentives that are nothing but they make me giggle, the Rabid bobblehead in for your dashboard on Far Cry 5 and stuff like that. I can get all those incentives without it gumming up my PC. Maybe I will start calling it Pooplay because it constipated my computer. Like, oh my God. And Origins just won't. I used Origins for a while. I don't like it. It's invasive. Like, Battle.net was too invasive for me. I was one of those early, nope. One of my big issues, and I was really unpopular for saying this at the time, but one of my big issues with WoW was that Battle.net was sitting there. I was watching it work on my computer, And at the time, I was like, this is invasive DRM. And of course, WoW was like the Fortnite of its day. So everybody was like, I don't care. And, you know, that was one of those things back in the day when things were actually worse for women in gaming, that I was dismissed. You don't understand how computers work because you're a girl. It's like, yeah, I got that over WoW. People just lost their objectivity because people found it fun and there was cool loot in WoW. I'm not a loot-oriented gamer. I'm not a customization-oriented gamer. I'm one of these people who likes to complete arcs. I don't have to 100% a game. This is not important, but anyway, I do not like multiple clients. Nope. So I was always just gonna order Metro for PS4. But I was going to stream Metro because I'm super excited about the game. I love the Metro franchise. But now I don't know if I can support this business practice. And this is what's so damn annoying about gaming right now. We as gamers are forced to overthink everything. And I admit I'm leaning towards streaming it anyway because I don't think the developer should be punished for the business practices of its publisher. And also they are far from alone, like I just described. I'm just not going to buy the PC version. The only hesitation I have on that is that not fair to people who only PC game? I know in you know, parts of Europe, PC gaming is like the dominant thing people do. Certain parts of Latin America the same way, because consoles are friggin' expensive down there. So I don't know. Like, that's my only hesitation. Don't yell at me for the way I'm leaning because I'm not sure yet. I'm really looking for feedback on this that isn't just noping hard all over the place. I need some granular reasoning here. Above and beyond results. Like, this is a real ethical conundrum for me, which might be a good way to segue into the content for the week, because of the whole Enlightenment ethics. Oh God, the comments were hilarious. The people were all like, I'm being triggered with, you know, flashbacks to university philosophy classes and all that stuff. I chuckled so hard at those comments because, oh my God, yeah, that was a much bigger slog. The thing on Enlightenment free speech was a much bigger slog than I expected it to be. So many rabbit holes to chase down. What I actually discovered is, you know, traditional thought on the issue was that Enlightenment thinking about separation of church and state and, you know, the religious freedom clause tied to freedom of speech was what caused freedom of speech to become a thing. And when I actually looked into it, I didn't find that was the case. Conventional wisdom is actually wrong about where the free speech protections came from. I was struggling not to find the leap between John Locke's kind of footnote on free speech and the you know, fundamental importance of the idea of freedom of expression that began in the Enlightenment. And I couldn't get it from a purely philosophical approach. It actually wasn't there. It wasn't until I turned to the technological innovation surrounding the printing press, and 1620, boom, the Dutch press comes out, you know, costs for printing pamphlets go down, pamphlet writing explodes, and all of a sudden, you know, protections for the press, protections particularly for newspapers, become extremely important. It was actually tied to a technological innovation, which is important because these are the same fights we're having about the internet. And these historical contexts are super important to understanding what's going on right now, because technology may change, but human nature doesn't. And I've always been fascinated by the similarities between internet culture of today and 16th and 17th century pamphlet writing, 18th century, I guess, as well. 18th century got really brutal. But that has always been a point of fascination for me. The comments on that video, those are always slow for people to watch the free speech videos. They're sluggish because they're not hot takes, but the comments are always so good. Joking aside, one person asked me, one person pointed out that I didn't touch on, and this wasn't a criticism, it's just they think it's cool, about how because printed books were expensive at the time, not like, you know, paperbacks of today, they were all hardback books. The written word was elevated because it was like seemed like this big privilege, this big treat that you got to read. I mean, literacy was for the elite as well. So you know, the written word was elevated. It was high culture, you know, which is interesting because not all writing was seen that way. But the point is well taken that yes, that was true. The point of the Enlightenment, Victorian novels hadn't hit yet, so prose speech was still considered kind of junky, whereas poetry, verse, was considered high culture. So it was still kind of, and those pamphlets were considered like garbage, like scandalous, like literally the way the internet is treated today. This is junk that is ruining our lovely, you know, near perfect culture, when no, the culture was far from perfect. Slavery hadn't even been abolished. Women didn't have suffrage. They had a massive nationalistic streak growing during the Enlightenment. Studying the Enlightenment is really, really interesting because of how much today reflects it, because of a massive technological boom that facilitated massive social change. We're living in an age not unlike that now. We just have more literate people now. Although that's up for some debate in some ways. People can read, but do they understand what they're reading? Different story. One person asked about how Spinoza, Baruch Spinoza, the philosopher, fit into the idea of the intellectual elite replacing the sort of monarchy / church elite. And that's a really interesting question. Spot on, commenter. Well done. Because Spinoza, obviously he was in a position of sort of privilege. He was at an advantage because he did speak and write Latin, which at the time he was writing 1620, I want to say. No, a little later than that. He died in 1677. All right, Dutch press, 1620. That's why I had that in my mind. But the thing that was interesting about Spinoza is, yes, he was educated. Yes, he had those privileges that way. But he was a Portuguese Sephardic Jew writing in the Netherlands. And he was actually, his questioning, his criticism of the sort of literal truth of the Hebrew Bible had the Jewish religious authorities issue what's called a harem against him, which is the sort of, not quite, but sort of similar to what happens in Islam now, where someone is labeled a what the heck do they call it? It's like they did to Salman Rushdie, a fatwa. That's right. It's similar, although what a harem is that you're a blasphemer and you're kicked out of any engagement in Jewish society. And that happened to Spinoza when he was 23. So he was sort of born into relative privilege because he was literate and spoke Latin, but he spoke and wrote Latin, but he was basically excommunicated. Excommunication's probably a better comparison to harem. He lost all that status, and his most important ideas were published posthumously. So Spinoza was not part of that intellectual elite, the same way Kant and Rousseau and Hobbes and people who are influential within their lifetimes were. So that was a very, very good question. I really think Spinoza's outsider perspective, and why is Spinoza important? Because Spinoza sort of started, he was a rationalist. He's compared to Descartes, but he's very important to the building of both, in a lot of ways, rationalism and empiricism. He was a forerunner to guys like John Locke, even though he didn't share the idea of mind-body duality or anything like that. The way he laid out his ideas, and I guess Locke wasn't really affected by him because everything was posthumous. Oh, these dates are getting all mixed up. But yeah, right. Rationalist, roots around Locke into the opponents of Locke. Right. But anyway, his ideas were really critical to the build up to the Enlightenment and into the Enlightenment because he dared to question. And I mean, he made a living as a lens grinder. Like, he made optical devices. That's how he earned a living. So really good question. People are like, what is this Feedback Friday? It's really heady and not just responding to people who think I suck. Yeah, this is why I like doing videos like this. Really good question. See, I love these. It sucks because the videos that don't do as well as quickly, which means YouTube's algorithm likes them less, generate the best comments. And I think precisely it's because they don't get the garbage. They don't get the hate clicks. They don't get the dislike bombing. It's funny. The YouTube creator community, the official videos they released for creators actually did a whole thing on dislike button bombing of videos. And I'm like, why does anybody care? So what? I get 54% like instead of 99% like or 90% like on a video because a whole bunch of people who aren't fans just decided to swarm that one. I don't care. Popularity or unpopularity doesn't mean you're right. I actually get a little weirded out when people are agreeing with me too much. But apparently it's because the YouTube algorithm actually treats videos differently that are getting a lot of dislikes. According to this video, I'm like, what? That's dumb. Because a dislike is an engagement. You're making people think. But I guess in this era of, advertiser friendliness, they want everything to be happy, happy, happy. That doesn't get you good discourse. If everybody is driving, if popularity is the big driver of speech, then you just get a bunch of echo chambers, and that's not good for anybody, which is why I prefer the Patreon funding to have to worry about YouTube's or good God sponsor money, because sponsors are like that. You have to be popular. You have to not have people yelling at you, especially when you're a woman, because we have to be more likable. But I don't want to play that game. I don't want to do that shit. I gotta be me. And I score very low, especially for a woman, on that agreeability big 5. So that ain't me. That's never gonna be me. I gotta be me, and I gotta find a funding model that fits that, and crowdfunding, and then the merchandise I'm going to be working on in 2019 I think is the way to do that. That idea of videos that are less popular bringing in the best comments also applied to the mental health video I did. And this makes me more sure than ever that moving the mental health stuff off this channel and into its own podcast format is actually the way to go. Because then I can build an audience for those podcasts that are just for that, and not people who want to hear me talking about, gaming drama like the Metro thing or Anthem. Which I think I said my piece on. There's no more to say. It's good to give the comments a read because there was a nice sort of, it wasn't that diverse. A lot of people agreed with me on that one. There were a few people that said they were still going to give it a try, and they gave their reasons. And I was good with that. Nobody actually came right out and said they enjoyed the demo, the VIP demo. They said that it was a all right game when technical issues aside, which is really faint praise. But some people said they were still going to give it a shot. A lot of longtime BioWare fans said they weren't. And this is a real risk when you alienate your base in search of new players. You tend to not make anyone happy. But I haven't even touched on that Assassin's Creed brouhaha, the Odyssey thing from a few weeks ago. I've been hesitant to do it because it's a big spoiler. Is there interest in that? I don't know. I know I'm flinging a lot of questions at you this week. What was the last video now? Oh my God. It was such a busy week that, oh yeah, the articles I did about covering, incels and stuff like that, that went a lot better than I thought. There is a group of, trolls. I don't know if that's the right thing to call them, because they're not funny. They somehow manage to get certain personal information. Whenever I do a video that even remotely offends kind of the manosphere type, they start harassing me. That's all I'm going to say about that, because nothing's changing. They call me impersonating banks. So I just don't, they somehow managed to get hold of my phone number and start impersonating banks. So I just don't answer the phone. Sorry, banks, contact me through another means. It can be done. Banks shouldn't call your cell phone anyway. Unfortunately, most people only have a cell phone. Anyway, but so they started up with this again. It happens every time I touch on this subject. It's not going to stop me. So they're wasting their time, but maybe it's a bonding experience for them. It's a group of them that get together, and I guess they bond over their mutual hatred of me. Whatever, that's still doing good in the world. But don't ask me how I know that. It's a long story. But the responses were thoughtful in the comments, and people got what I was saying, which is good, because that's no guarantee when you get into touchy subjects like that. And it was about 4chan as well. So I guess sort of the 4chan canceled out sort of the incel kind of thing. But people, asked, why did 4chan get associated with, the far right or the alt-right in the first place? And I agree. I don't know. I have not been able to find out. I think it's just, this is someone we don't like for personal reasons. This is something that we can defend disliking, and so we're going to lump them together because, as one person said in the comments, 4chan is the embodiment of chaotic neutral, right? Like, I haven't been on 4chan in a while, so I don't want to talk out my ass here, but I mean, I know there are like poll and things like that tend to lean right wing. Maybe that's where it comes from, is everybody is judging it based on poll. But that's like judging all of Reddit based on R the Donald, it just, that's ignorance of the format. But I agree, I don't get it, because most 4chaners are, their political affiliation is radically don't give a fuck from what I know. I was surprised I didn't get more blowback for treating incels like people, but maybe that just has to do with the fact that, you guys are better about empathy and stuff like that than some YouTube channels are. And I think that, the radical left is basically, they're an Operation Ignore where I'm concerned, like just shun her, as if, the nice thing about the hard left is they've done everything they can possibly do to me. Because once you ostracize someone, once you blacklist someone and excommunicate them, you've lost all power over them. If they can still keep going after you've done that, they've beat you. And that is the problem with the control left. The alt-right is much louder, And so they're a more ongoing irritant, but still that's you can get through noise, right? I really don't get the fear that's out there. Last thing I'm going to touch on, because I found this very interesting, and I know I missed a lot of really great comments this week. There was just so much, and I want to keep this around 30 minutes for, the P.T. Barnum, the mind can absorb what the seat can endure. There was some really great discussion in the comments of that video about this idea that the learn to code mockery that the channers flung at the fired Huffington Post journalists was somehow harassment. I didn't see that. My understanding of the situation, based on just a little bit follow up, that there was some nastiness, as there tends to be with the culture war, that went beyond the learn to code thing. But I will take people's word for it that somewhere on the internet, the whole learn to code, boomerang back was labeled harassment. And I want to address that because I think the people that actually objected to that classification were right. Learn to code was a position that the Huffington Post itself, and I'm hesitant to say that because that's misleading, because the Huffington Post is generated mostly by free content. So most of the op-ed contributors don't get paid. They're, internal news. Yeah, those are salaried mostly. They might be using more and more freelancers, but the HuffPost, I don't like. I will say this from the get-go because they use way too much free labor. And their reliance on all that free op-ed content is how they can keep firing people and keep their doors open. I have never liked that about HuffPo. It is woke-washed. It is faux liberalism. It is not, sorry, I won't say liberalism. It is faux left-wing. Liberalism is something different. Liberalism, progressivism, and sort of left-wing unionist, pro-worker politics are all very different things. They are not pro-worker. They underpay the people they hire, and they don't pay far too many people. So I think HuffPo is just a hypocritical organization from the jump. But apparently, Huffington Post, proving its, left-wing hypocrisy, told out-of-work blue-collar workers to learn to code. Now, if I'd known about that at the time, I would have said that's terrible advice. There's too many coders already. That's a huge problem for people who have computer science degrees. There are way too many computer scientists out there. So only the people from the most elite schools are getting hired in, good paying jobs. It's not a panacea. That shows complete ignorance of what it's like to be trying to get a computer science oriented job. I know a lot of very brilliant people who are underemployed, constantly between jobs, or have been unemployed for a really long time because there's just too many people with the exact same qualifications on paper that they have. But apparently the learn to code thing that was flung at Huffington Post people after they were fired was a response to that they showed a lack of empathy when blue collar workers lost their jobs through no fault of their own. And so it was sort of, not so easy when you're on the receiving end, right? Which, you know what? It's not nice, but it is absolutely fair. And I'm not a big fan of kicking people when they're down, but I know it happens. And in terms of the ways that you could kick someone when they're down, at least there's an element, like I knowing how legitimate troll culture thinks, and by that I mean actual trolls, not foaming at the mouth angry extremists that get labeled trolls. Actually, trolls do it for the lulz trolls. I see the moral permission, like the moral license given to kick someone when they're down, thinking like a troll. I wouldn't do it. I just agree that in my mind that does not constitute harassment. That is just being mean because you think rightly or wrongly someone deserves it. And that's something that really bothers me about the whole harassment, online harassment thing, is that it's so misidentified that we're not going to get any actual solutions to it under the current paradigm, because it's coming from an uninformed place. And that's why I wanted to do the series on free speech, even though it's maddening. I mean, it has been very validating for me, for the people that did watch it. A really common compliment people have gotten is, this is really well done, the way you distill the information. And this is from people who actually took history and took philosophy and had to slog through this stuff. So, and that's the reason I did it, to kind of get that muscle going. Because this is the last thing I'll share. I know this is going on a bit long, but boss fight preparation has begun for a spring Kickstarter. And it's going really well. The music from the new music from Morbid Complex, Hit Hazard Productions. That dude knocks it out of the park every single time. He was the guy that did the music for Lady Bits. The guy's awesome. Visual style, it's interesting because visual style is sort of going to be affected by the music. I know that sounds a bit weird, but that's the way I work. Dance background, I'm a choreographer. But if anybody is interested in volunteering art for the project, I am open to that, because it was a big slog for the artist. And oh my God, I am blanking on her screen name now. I feel terrible. It was a lot for one person to do last time around, and she did a fantastic job. I feel terrible. I'm remembering her real name, not her screen name. And I don't want to say her real name because she doesn't want to use it, but she did a great job on those chibis. If anybody else, even things like making those little like graphics, like the charts and everything like that, so I don't have to use pre-rendered stuff. I'm sure there's some way we can work out something so that everybody feels like they're getting something out of it without, making things prohibitively expensive, because crowdfunding things have to be done kind of on a shoestring. But let me know, tweet me with this so you don't get lost in the comments, because some people may be seeing this later. It's a long video, and I will bring this up again. But man, the list of misconceptions, myths about gaming that the patrons came up with, there's 13 of them now. And the way it's going to work is if you back the project as a Kickstarter backer, you get to vote on which ones get included. So it's going to be the top 5 myths or the bottom 5. And then if, we hit a stretch goal, it's going to be 10, or, the back 5 are going to be season 2. It's really flexible that way, in a way that Lady Bits wasn't. I admit I'm much more looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a lot more fun than 12 episodes on gender. Being completely honest here, I love doing Lady Bits. The characters were a ton of fun, but man, gender theory month after month after month. Wow, that was supposed to be hanging myself, but it looked more like blowjob face. That's a good place to stop. If you are interested in joining the early discussion on Boss Fight, again, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. It's greatly appreciated. Otherwise, have a great weekend. Monday, I'm back with the Punisher review, Punisher Season 2, and the Twitch stream, which I think is going to be at 6 o'clock Eastern on Monday, but I will put stuff up on Twitter and Facebook and let the patrons know. Tuesday, I'm not sure the time yet, but we'll do that on Monday. Monday is a long way away. So is Tuesday. It's the weekend on the internet. Shit always goes sideways. Okay, thanks for watching.